Hey, this is Matt, the host of the show, and I just wanted to thank you for listening. Your support of the show just by you listening each and every week, and even by sharing it if you do that with a friend, it means a lot. I am very fortunate to be able to speak with the number of people that I do about the club that we all love. I recognize that I am very fortunate in that, so thanks for listening. That said, the show doesn't have any advertisements or sponsors, and I do that partially because I want to make sure that I am in full control of who we get to talk to, that nobody is ever looking down and saying, oh, we don't want you to talk to that or them, or we want you to say this. That doesn't happen. So no sponsorships, no advertisements here in the show, nothing trying to be sold to you or anything like that. That said, the people who help support the show, the members of the Patreon community, thank you to you, especially because you help make the show possible. It's not free. It's not necessarily overly expensive, but it's definitely not free. So that said, thank you to you. If you're interested in becoming a part of the Patreon community, you can do that. There are links in the show notes, or you can head over to patreon.com/SFC delivery. You get some bonuses if you do, everything from an extra podcast episode a month to a private group chat and a couple of other benefits. So head on over there if you're interested. If not, just enjoy the show. All right, here we go.
You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Monte with a scooping
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it. And by the time you listen to this, you may very well know the result of the match that has taken place in China. You will definitely know the result of the Preston match. You will know who has gone to China, who has gone to Ireland, and you can make of it what you will. But we won't really talk about any of that this week on the show because that's not the focus. The focus this week is the Southampton Women's Football Club, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by Aaron Smith and Lee Hurrell, the manager and assistant of the club. If you want to get in touch with them on Twitter, you can do that. Aaron is at West Spice, and Lee is at LH Football. That's FUTEBOL. But I'm recording all of this before any of that. So this interview was recorded last week before I went down to Arsenal with my son, Arsenal against Bayern Munich. He learned lots of interesting new language, which I'm not sure was that new, but new context for the language, which I think is probably okay. And we followed that up with a family reunion, and now my wife and I are away on our 10-year anniversary. So that is not the focus of this week, but that is why this episode was recorded so far in advance, and that's why I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict the future other than I hope a couple of players leave, but that's not really a prediction. It's more of a hope. So anyway, this week we're going to talk with Aaron and Lee. We get to talk about Aaron has been at the club before, but he's come back to the club. Lee has never been at the Southampton Women's Football Club before, so they are there. They are now in charge, and they are looking to gain promotion yet again with the club. So we get to talk about all that, their plans, what's changed. There's been lots of stuff going on there, so we'll keep you up to date with that. And I should mention they have a friendly with Spurs coming up next week. So on Sunday, they will have a friendly with Spurs. You should go. You should take whoever it is that likes football. You should go watch them. You should support them. They are a local team. So I'll throw that out there. I'd just like to thank Haley Newman for helping me set this up, and also Elliot James Hunt for his help in getting this whole thing started once again. It's always a pleasure to work with the Southampton Women's Football Club. And let's jump into my conversation with Aaron and like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Aaron Smith and Lee Hurrell, the coaching staff or the manager and the assistant of the Southampton Women's Football Club. Guys, thanks for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you guys are out and together and I think getting ready to go do some work of some sort. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. But I think we're a couple of weeks away from the start of your season, and just before we kind of get into getting to know you guys a little bit, for those of us who don't know you, how is preseason kind of shaping up for you two?
For me, it's going really well. We planned our pre-season methodically a couple of months ago when we realised that we were coming into the club. We're 2 games in. We've got a massive game on Sunday against Oxford, who are the tier above us, and that's going to be a great game because they're a good footballing team. I know their manager well, and he's got them well drilled. So we then, the following week, so a week on Sunday, we have Spurs, which is going to be amazing. To play against a now fully professional English Women's Super League team is exciting. I can't wait. And it's obviously at East's Football Club ground, which is a Silver Lake Stadium. So that's a fantastic ground against an amazing team, and we should be able to hold our own as much as we can against Spurs, because we're a little bit further on in our pre-season than what they are, because their players obviously are professional, so they're on different sort of time constraints to what we are when they start their pre-season.
And would any of them have been away on international duty over the course of the summer by any chance?
Yeah, some of them will have. They've got a defender, Rhea Percival, who plays for New Zealand, so she was at the World Cup with them. To be fair, though, most of the rest of the squad are sort of young English players, so they may have been playing in age group internationals, but I think Rhea Percival was the only one that was at the World Cup. But they've signed a lot of players who have been previous internationals, like Gemma Davison, who used to play for Chelsea and went to the last World Cup with England. So, yeah, they're going to be strong, but their season doesn't start until mid-September because of the World Cup. Obviously, a lot of players in that league are in the World Cup, so they start a lot later than us. They're about 3 weeks behind in terms of when their competitive season starts.
But it's still a good chance for you and the team to get some experience against some like you said, fully professional players, and then also a chance for some of the supporters and the fans to come out and watch some players who were at the World Cup and players who may be at future World Cups. For just a couple of pounds. So I think it'll be a good test for you. And just so people aren't as familiar with the women's kind of football structure, how many leagues above where you are now, where the Southampton women's team is now, are Spurs?
Okay, so Spurs are Super League, which is the top league. Then underneath that you have the Championship. And then underneath that, you have what is Tier 3, which would be the level that Lee and I were at last year with Chichester. And then underneath that level, you have Tier 4, which is the league that Southampton women are in. So we are equivalently 3 leagues below where Spurs are now.
All right. So it'll be a good test. It'll be a good test for everybody there. And you mentioned there that you were at a different club last year, and you two have been coaching together, I think, for previous seasons. From what I can tell. And, so I guess just we'll start with you, Lee, and just give us an idea of kind of how you got into football coaching, I guess. And then Aaron will follow up with you just after that.
I was playing at sort of semi-pro level as a goalkeeper until I was 25, and I'd had a couple of bad knee injuries, so moved into coaching. I coached junior football for a little while, and then I first got involved in women's football funny enough at Portsmouth, which was an odd move as a Saints fan, but it was a good level, a good club with other good coaches that I could learn from. So I started there working with their sort of development team, the second team, and sort of helping out with the first team when I could. We won the league, the Tier 3 league, 2014-15 season, but lost the playoff to go up. So I ended up moving to join a club called Bristol City, who are in the Super League, coaching their under-17s and their development team. Spent a season there before moving to Canada. I was director of coaching on the girls' side at a club in Toronto. Before I came back to the UK, coached the under-16s at Brighton's women's setup for a year. And then I left there because of the travel commitments. It was a bit too far from where I live in Hampshire, and Aaron got in touch with me because he was just about to be announced as the manager at Chichester, and he needed someone else in there. So I went in. So last season was actually only our first season working together, but we came third in that league. I think we were pretty successful. We enjoyed working with each other. When the opportunity came on to move this season, it was a natural choice to follow him.
All right. And then Aaron, I mean, what role did kind of, Lee mentioned he was a Southampton fan. I don't know if you're from the area or not, but what kind of brought you into football in general, and then eventually into the coaching side of it?
So I'm from Luton originally, and I moved down here, and I've been down here about 10, 11 years. And I was on a coaching course with a coach called Aaron Wallace, who's at Southampton Women, and I was doing my coaching course in Hampshire with him, and I didn't have a team at the time, and I just wanted to get into coaching because I was playing a good level, but because of shift work, I was struggling to maintain that level. And also, I'm 40 this year, so the injuries started. A week-long injury was dragging on to 3 or 4 weeks at this point. So I realised I had to stop playing, so I had to take up coaching. That's what I wanted to do. And Aaron got me down to Southampton Women training, where I met Fran Alonso and Simon. And Fran was amazing. After 2 minutes of speaking with him, I knew that Southampton was going to be the club that I could sort of attach myself to do my coaching badges. And it was brilliant. I worked as Fran's cone boy basically for a couple of weeks, picking up cones, picking up equipment, laying it all out so his session ran nice and smoothly. And then we all know that Fran then went to Everton, and that opened up a gap, if you like, as the reserve team manager, because Simon then went up to take the first team, and I got put in as the the reserve team manager at Southampton Women, and that was it, and went from there. So that was 3 seasons ago, the start of about 3 years ago now, that I was put in that place, and we did well. We won the league, undefeated that season. It was amazing, and then I got asked to go to Portsmouth first team and be the assistant manager there. And then I moved on to Chichester, where I took the manager's job. And it's good to be back at Southampton, because I think where I've learnt from, I've worked from the bottom. I've been a cone boy. I've got hardly any experience compared to where Lee's been at all the academies. And I think that's why we work really well together. He's got so much experience, and I love him to bits, and he's so geeky about certain things, and it's really good, because where he's strong, I'm weak, and that can only be a good thing for me, because I'm learning off of him. Every session he's delivering, I'm learning something from him.
Well, that's really good. It sounds like you guys have a decent working relationship, and you have some experience at the club, it sounds like, and it's like you said, it is nice to be back. And do you find that having gone away and come back, that you still recognize some of the players that are there, and you still have some of that relationship of some of the people moved up from maybe the reserve team, or maybe some of the younger squad up to the senior level?
And do you know what? I think that's the best thing for me, is the players that I had in my team, in that reserve team 3 years ago. The likes of Amy Barnett, Phil as well, Holden, she was playing for us in the reserves. They're now first team players, and they're definitely first team players next season as well, because they're absolutely smashing pre-season. They're doing really well, performing well. The attitude from them is amazing. And it's nice to see that they've worked their way up through the system. And then also, we look at the younger players. We've got Jen King, Tia Hooper. They've worked through as well. There's a young girl, Mia Inglis, who played for us against Winchester in a friendly a couple of weeks ago and scored on her first team debut, basically. And you think the youth setup at Southampton Women is second to none in the area. It's fantastic. And now they're starting to feed through into the first team and the reserve team squads. It's really promising for the future. But it's nice to be back. And it's nice to actually be back and be welcomed back, because, when I left, I was a bit worried about coming back, thinking, what are the players going to be like towards me? And I'll be honest, it's like I've never been away. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, well, you see, you both seem to have touched the dark side over there, and I guess we can forgive you for that. But not to get away from the women's team, but how excited are you about Luton in last season?
Yeah, very,
okay.
Especially when they're beating Portsmouth. I was very excited. It's brilliant. It's a shame that I don't get to go to any of the games as much as I'd like to, but I went down to Fratton Park to watch them. The first game of last season, which was really good.
And there is one other Southampton guy who does a lot of media for everything, and he's originally from Luton, and he doesn't like to say that he's a Luton fan. Just he doesn't want anybody to get mad at him. But I secretly text him on the side because I was happy.
You need to embrace it.
I mean, so Lee, when you first got into coaching, and you've done, I think you've done both men's and women's football, but I mean, what is there anything that's difficult about coming in and coaching a women's team versus coaching a men's team?
Yeah, there's a few differences. Not sort of vastly different. At the end of the day, they're football players. The game's the same. The way people might communicate with players has to be slightly different, but I think football's changing like that, across the board anyway. I think the days of people just screaming instructions at people, and I think that's dying in the men's game as well. But certainly in the women's game, you needed to be a little bit more calm and rational in the way you talk to people, and there's a lot less aggression around the game, shall we say, which is I think one of the reasons why I enjoy coaching it so much. And the players are a lot more coachable, I found, in the women's game as well. Whereas you're coaching guys, there's a lot of egos. Everyone thinks they know best, and I found female players are I think they're better learners than male players. Is one thing that I think has been really apparent in the, I think, how many 6 years I've been coaching in women's football now.
And Aaron, have you found that to be similar, where maybe the egos aren't there as much in terms of if you walk into a men's team and people start trying to size you up and ask you what level you play at and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference. The sort of the women's players don't seem to care where you come from as much, as long as they're getting a good coaching and a good management. But the best thing I can say is that, like listening to Lee there, the first game I had for Southampton women was my first ever women's football game, and it was a friendly against New Milton, and we were 1-0 down at half time, and we should not have been 1-0 down with the team we had. And I absolutely tore into them at half time because they had been training brilliantly well. They got to the game, the warm up was great. All of a sudden, half time, they just collapsed. And I did what I'd seen a million men do in front of me. My managers in the men's game was shout and scream and tell them that they weren't good enough at that time, and this is what we're going to do to get it better. And after the game, I had Kirsty Bell, who was a fantastic captain for us, for our club for years. Brilliant, lovely girl. She came up to me after the game and just said, "Smith, you can't talk to women like that in this game. You need to sort of change your approach on that." And that was a massive learning curve for me. And sure enough, I would never go back to that. Staying calm, staying composed during the team talk, giving the players input as well, because I never really had that. Even though I was playing at a very good level, the manager would come in, shout and scream, and that would be it. He'd walk out, and that would be the end of it. Actually, what we like to do is ask the players to problem solve sometimes, or ask them walk into the change room and say, right, what have you seen? You tell us, and then we can give them our side of it as well. Because you can be coaching from the side and managing from the side, and actually missing things because you're sorting the substitutes out or worried about something going on in a certain area of the pitch. You're missing things on the pitch, and I think it's important to get that view from the players. And that's the biggest thing I found, is the communication. That's the biggest thing I found between the two sort of games.
Yeah, I still have very distinct memories of things that were told to me on the field. One of them by a guy who is about to retire. I currently work with him because he's now I'm a teacher at the school that I went to and played baseball at. And I remember we played 2 games in one day, and one of the things he said to me was, "Mark Stone, there's a lot of places that you belong, but on this baseball field is not one of them. And by the way, you're going to bat third next game and catch." And I was like, "Well, great." But I guess I responded well to that stuff. But I've had to learn from coaching my own kids that that's not. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's a little bit. I don't want to say old school, but maybe that's just the way it is. But yeah, and it's good that you've been able to kind of pick those things up and that Kirsty was able to, or willing to speak to you about it, I guess.
Oh yeah, Kirsty's willing to speak about anything. She's not afraid to tell you. I'll tell you that right now. But I like that. That's how I'd rather be. You don't want players going behind your back. You want to be told straight away. Then if you're told something's wrong, you can fix it. If you're not told it's wrong, how are you supposed to fix it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, coming in at the end of last season, or just after the season was over last year, what were maybe some of the first things that you looked to do Obviously, Aaron, you had a little bit of experience with the club, but Lee, you were kind of new to it. But what were some of the things you looked at and said, okay, this is what we need to do after? Because there were several years there, I think 3 consecutive years of promotion, and then 2 years of being close and falling just short. And so what did you guys, I guess, come in and identify as what you needed to do to try to get over the hump?
There was a long list, but I think the biggest thing for me was training times and contact time with players. So I think we were training on a Tuesday for 1 hour, then a Thursday for an hour and a bit. And that wasn't enough for me. I wanted 4 hours contact time with the players. So we would train twice a week, 2 hours each session. And that gives us then time to actually have a session without rushing things. We've got players come from all over. You don't want a player driving for an hour from north of Oxford to get to training, to only train for an hour. It just wasn't worth it for them. And their fitness levels when we arrived were not good enough. And so what we've done is we've upped the training to 4 hours now, every single week. We have a strength and conditioning coach, Tom, who's now involved with us. So that's obviously going to improve their fitness. We have a physio full-time now, so he's here every Tuesday. We can do clinics with him. He's there every match day with them as well. I was also there on Skype or on the phone if they've got any injuries, because obviously we want to push them. We want to be back in Tier 3 as soon as we can. And it's going to be difficult this year because Southampton, FC women are in our league and it's going to be tough. But we want to be back in Tier 3. So with strength and conditioning, physio, nutritionists, psychologists, we're giving them everything we can to say, look, last 2 seasons you have been so close to going up. It's just that last step. And in our league, you can look at it the last 2 years of the results. If you lose 1 or 2 games in this league, it gets extremely hard to get out. So you've got to be concentrating. You need your fitness to be good, because if you switch off for that 10 seconds in a game and you can see the goal and go 1-0 down, as Southampton found out last year, you go 1-0 down and the other team just want to bank up against you, it's difficult to break that down. And that's why you need to be concentrating, which means you need to be eating the right things for match day. You need to make sure that your fitness is good, make sure that you've got nothing on your mind during the game or before the game, and you're coming in the right frame of mind. So that was one thing, or lots of things that we put in for the sort of sports science side. But for me, a big thing is away games. They didn't travel in a minibus to away games. And I really like the idea of the whole minibus thing, because one thing that will give players a little bit of a boost is other players, or are other players. So if you're going up in a minibus and you're singing, and they all like to sing along to Greatest Showman or whatever the new tune is, they like to sing along, and we're all sitting in the front having to listen to it. But I don't mind that, because they're all having fun in the back and they're playing games and they're all talking to each other and they're bonding. And I think that's massive. But last year, when Southampton were going to away games, what they do is they go in separate cars. And so for us this season, one big thing that I've done is change it. So we now have a transport sponsor and a minibus. And what we're going to do is every single away game, we get in the minibus and we go together, and we go as a team, we arrive as a team, and we play as a team.
I guess that is a big part of it. And you're right. Like, the team builds off of one another, and just sometimes if you wake up on a match day and you're not, for whatever reason, just enthusiastic, or there's something bugging you and you're by yourself and allowed to sit with that for too long, it might take a while to change that, and getting around the other teammates who are maybe not, or maybe feeling a little bit better than you or whatever. That sounds like a good way to kind of
And as a manager, you're on a bus. Once you get halfway through the journey, you can tell how the players are going to be when you arrive. Mm-hmm. You can tell the ones that look tired. You can tell the ones that sort of maybe have got something else going on from their body language. That if you're, if Lee and I are doing our jobs right, we should be able to pick up on the body language and stuff like that. Which means that when we get to the ground, or even before we get there, when we get to the stop, we can have a little chat with the player and make sure everything is okay. So you're not just arriving at the ground in your own car, then by the time you figured out the player's got something wrong, that could be 20 minutes into the game. So we're preventing all of that happening.
Yeah. You mentioned sponsorship there, Aaron, and I just want to take a second to remind people that both the club and individual players and even managers require sponsors at this level, because it is expensive to be able to run the team. And I mean, to the point where there was another team in Southampton just recently that the Southampton Saints Girls and Ladies FC, they have officially kind of shut their doors as a club. And speaking to you beforehand, it's somewhat due to lack of sponsors, and now there are a lot of teams kind of competing for players and for sponsorships and everything else. So I'd like to take a second just to say that anybody out there who is interested in taking part in sponsoring one of the players or one of the managers or just the club in general, that is welcome. And we have contact information in the show notes so people can do that. And I don't know if you know offhand, either of you, how many players are still looking for sponsorship and things like that.
Yeah, there are still players without sponsorships, a handful of them. So, and they're first teamers. So we're looking for, £300 to £400 per player for a sponsor. And it means that, we're trying to build sort of people that are going to inspire young girls to play football now. Like I said before, we're playing Spurs in 2 weeks, and we, under 16s are getting free to that game. So we want the young girls from the schools to come and watch Spurs, come and watch us and say, look, one day I want to be there. And we can't put the players out on the pitch to do that without the sponsorship. And it's such a difficult thing where I've gone to Amanda, our club secretary, and said, look, we want to train 4 hours a week because we need to get out of this league. To do that, to train 4 hours a week, well, the training budget has just been completely blown open, and that's now twice as much. So for the girls to be able to play football and not be charged a penny, because they shouldn't really at this level. This is tier 4, it's the equivalent of men's League 2. So I think that's the big thing, and people don't realise is tier 4 is a very, very good league. It's a very good level. It's a national league. We're in the FA Cup. With teams in our league, in our tier now, that got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. There's, it's and got to the final of the League Cup. Actually, saying that as well. It's a very good level, and we want players to be able to do it without the worry of saying, "Oh, you're going to have to pay £200 here or £55 here," and we really want to try and get away from that.
I mean, there's no, I guess. Maybe this isn't a great time to do this. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I'm gonna try it anyway. The payment and payment pay for play and things like that have been issues in the United States, and obviously with the U.S. women's national team. I don't know how you feel about Megan Rapinoe, but a lot of people over here, about half the country, really likes her. We'll leave it at that. But I mean, for you, when you look at, you mentioned the kind of disparity where you have players still paying to play, and people in League 2 are essentially fully professional on the men's side of things. Isn't that starting to be noticed maybe more as a result of the World Cup or anything else, or do you see that at all?
I think the first thing you've got to do is look at the FA Cup. Now we understand that we're not getting the same amount of people through our gate as the equivalent in the men's tier 4, but the FA Cup, I think if we get through one round of the FA Cup, we get about £900 in the first round. Mm-hmm. But I've got friends that manage at Wessex level, which is, I'm sure, Lee, what tier is Wessex?
9th or 10th.
9th or 10th. So if they win their first FA Cup game, they get about 3,000. That's 3 times the amount just for winning one game. And that just goes to show you. And then that just increases time and time again. And when I was with Chichester, we ended up playing Liverpool in the last 16 of the FA Cup. And, you think last 16 of the FA Cup, this is a big game. And I think the winner of that game only got £3,000. But I don't know what it is in the men's game, but if you tell me that the last 16 win a game of football and only get £3,000, I'll be very surprised. And I don't want the same as the men, because I think that would be ridiculous. But I think that there is still a lot that the women's game can do to bring the money in. Especially now, it's good that Barclays has sponsored the Super League, but we're hoping that some of that money is going to feed its way down the tiers.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot of players at Super League level that came from the levels below. So I think if all the investment goes into just the top level and doesn't filter down at all, I think that's quite dangerous, because then a lot of clubs, they get a lot of money, they start bringing players in from abroad, and the English game suffers as a result. Players at the grassroots level still don't get to kick on. So it'd be interesting to see how the whole Barclays thing filters down. Talking about the Premier League taking over the Super League from the FA as well, which has been a news story recently. So it's interesting to see how it will shape up and whether or not it filters all the way down or just gets concentrated at the top.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be a big kind of an issue here and I think everywhere. And I think it's good that I think the longer we can keep kind of directing people's eyes back towards some of the things that are happening and what role just finances themselves play and just being able to play football for a lot of the people involved at the level that you guys are coaching at, I think is important. So I hope that people, one, reach out and sponsor here, and I hope that some of that money does come down and you guys can continue to improve, and that's my hope for it. And I think just drawing attention back to it again and again and again eventually will hopefully get a little better. And I mean, the chance to play Spurs, that should direct some attention towards you, and is hopefully you have I'm hoping you guys have a really good showing, and that way people will kind of go, hey, like there's something there. We should pay attention to this. I want to jump back to your schedule. Your schedule was recently released. I mean, and as you mentioned, just one or two losses in your league, because only one team gets promoted to the next division. It becomes a really, really a tough slog where every game is important. But are there any matches that maybe the girls looked at and said, okay, like these are the ones that stand out to us, even though we know all of them are important?
I'd say the game against obviously Southampton FC women's going to be huge, because obviously the men's club had no affiliation with the women's team for a number of years, and now they're putting investment into a team. They've had a couple of back-to-back promotions and come up to this level. So I think that one's going to be really interesting. Obviously, they're coached by Marianne Spacey, who was the England assistant manager at the 2015 World Cup. They're training at Staplewood. So I think they're going to be maybe surprised by the fact that, just how much teams will raise their game against them, because I think they're going to be a cup final for a lot of teams this year, which might allow us to go under the radar a little bit, because I think previously Southampton Women's FC, the club we're at, were seen as one of the biggest scalps in the league, but now that might have taken the heat off us a little bit. That'll be a big one for sure. We're playing them in a midweek game, so it'll be under lights midweek, big crowd probably as well. So you can't not get excited by those games.
And I mean, this might be a nerve for some people, but aren't they playing at the same stadium that you used to play at?
I can't believe you brought that up. I can't believe it. Yeah, they're going to be playing at AFC Tottenham, but we've got a home ground we'll be announcing very soon, which is a fantastic ground. And again, we've mentioned on social media, we're in partnership with Eastleigh FC, so a couple of our games are going to be held at the Silver Lake this season coming. So yeah, they can have Tottenham. Tottenham looks really nice. Their pitch is good. The groundsman from Southampton's obviously done some work there as well. It looks really nice. But again, like Lee says, that's going to be a cup final. Some teams are going to be going to Southampton every single week now, and they're going to be looking at that pitch thinking, oh, it's a nice pitch, I want to play on here. It's exciting. But I think some of the players have told me, I think Cheltenham, because I think they lost to Cheltenham last season and drew with them, so they owe the players sort of regret those games. They said they switched off and they should not have lost those games, but we'll see. I think we're going to take it's a bit of a cliche. We'll take every week as it goes, because this league is the equivalent of the men's championship league. It's so hard to get out of. If you lose 2 games, you won't get promoted. If you lose 1 game, the pressure's on, and you're going to some grounds that there's some nice grounds in this league. There's also some absolutely horrendous grounds in this league. And if you get one of those horrendous grounds in the middle of winter, then, and you want to be a footballing team and play football from the back like we do, then you're going to struggle. So you have to adapt.
Yeah. I don't know. When I first learned of how promotion worked from the league you guys are in, I was blown away, because it seems almost ridiculous that that's how it works. But I guess that it is just what it is, and you got to deal with it, I guess. But I mean,
well, it's like he said earlier, that when he was at Portsmouth, they won the league, and you win the league. The Northern League winner plays you in a playoff, and only one team goes through. So you can win your league, be undefeated all season, concede a last-minute penalty. Was it a last-minute penalty or last 5-minute penalty?
It was in open play, but it was in injury time.
You've let a goal in injury time at the end of 90 minutes, and your season's over because you don't get promoted. It's just savage.
Yeah. I almost feel bad for them. Just kidding. I know that. I hate to you hate to see that happen to anybody. And especially knowing, having talked to several of the players from the Southampton Women's Football Club, just knowing how hard they work and kind of the role that football plays in their lives and how much they actually do structure their weeks and weekends around playing for the club and how seriously they take it and how much they want to get back to full fitness when they get injured. To have that happen would be devastating, and you don't want that. But I mean, looking at the last 2 years and you guys coming in, what are the attitudes of most of the players like coming into the season, knowing that they've kind of fallen just short the past couple of seasons?
It does hurt them.
Yeah, I think they seem pretty determined. We haven't seen anyone in pre-season that's, sort of dwelling on it or anything like that. Everyone looks really focused, working really hard. And obviously, we'll have some players coming in from other clubs as well who everyone, the attitudes have been really good in pre-season. So I don't think anyone's dwelling on it, and there's a real determination, especially with, the other Southampton club coming up as well. That adds a little bit of spice to it, because I think they're probably assuming they're going to get promoted. So I think there's the added incentive of ruining their party as well a little bit.
Aaron, do you have anything to add there? Or are you kind of in agreement with Lee there?
I think that since I've come back into the club, it's been a breath of fresh air to see, our squad of 18 players wanting to learn, wanting to train. They are all driven to win this league. They felt that heartbreak 2 years in a row, and I think that's made them stronger. I genuinely do, and they know what it feels like to lose, and they don't like it, because like Southampton, we won league after league after league under Fran and Simon, went up, and they've struggled in this league. And it just goes to show this league is not easy. And Southampton have won league after league, and now they're in this situation that we were in a few years ago. But we now have 2 years' experience in this league, playing against women that will bite, will scratch, will pull your hair on corners and things like that. Now, it's a hard level. It's a hard level. And we're ready for it, and the players are ready for it, and they do not want to spend another season in this division, having only lost, I think, 4 games in 2 years, and still not gone up either year. So it's crazy. But their attitudes have been fantastic. And with Fran and Simon previously, they've got such good foundations. So we're finding that when we go in and run a session, it's great, because they've got such good foundations. Actually, what we're teaching them, they're already a couple of steps into what we want before we even start the session. So it's really good.
Awesome. I mean, coming into the season and based on what's happened in the past, and it sounds like promotion obviously is the goal and has been, but have you laid out, or has the team kind of set up any goals for themselves, or with your assistants, or have you set out any goals for the team in terms of what you two are hoping to achieve this year?
The problem with setting goals is that it puts pressure on the players. So we're not going to set goals with the players. Obviously, we want promotion. Let's be honest, everyone does that. But you also look at the Hampshire Cup. Portsmouth have won it the last 12 years in a row. So it'll be nice to be the first team in 12 years to take it off of them after losing in the final for the last couple of years. But my challenge to the players is, let's just go out there and let's not make the mistakes that we have been making the last 2 years. Let's make sure that our concentration levels are high, and make sure intensity is high. Make sure that we're doing what's asked of us all, and that includes the staff as well. So the staff have been given targets, but the players haven't been given any targets. Like, we must win the league, we must win the Hampshire Cup, we must get to X round on the FA Cup. But the staff have been given challenges because they need to hit these targets, obviously.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and obviously everybody that's involved with the club has things going on outside of the team, and they obviously everybody wants promotion. There's no need to add, I guess, pressure to that. But I mean, anything that has stood out to you as you've gone through this opening couple of rounds of preseason, and as you're getting ready, that maybe we haven't talked about, or we haven't asked about yet?
Not really. No, I just want to echo what Smithy said. With the players that have worked here under Fran and Simon before, it's been really good to be able to look to see where we can build on top of that, rather than having to spend a lot of time working on the basics. Like you said, the foundations are really good here. And we've obviously been racking our brains to find, where the little gains are that we can make that will make the difference this season compared to the last season. So, it's been nice for us personally just to get back into it as well. The summer break's not that long, but it feels long when you're out of it. So it's just been nice to get back out there, get back out doing sessions. We've got 2 games under our belt so far as well. And the sort of difficulty level increases as well. We played Winchester in our first game, who, it's a local game. We got a chance to use a lot of different players. Winchester are a good side as well. They've already beaten another side from our league in pre-season. So they were a good test. Then we played MK Dons last Sunday, who are from the league above. They're a tier 3 side that we know from our time at Chichester. And that was another good test, another game where we played really well. And then, like Aaron said earlier, we got Oxford this weekend, who finished 4th in tier 3 last year. So they're another really good team. So the levels go up each time. And then obviously Spurs the week after that. So, we're throwing these tests at the players and seeing how they cope. And so far they've coped really well in the games and the sessions, which is good.
I guess, do you see them when they go into a game like that where they're playing a team that is a division above them or potentially, several divisions above them, and they don't look at that and kind of shy away and just say, well, they're supposed to be better than us, so we take a play out. They're up for it? No,
definitely not. We run this team, or we run this club like it's a tier 2 team. We expect we have a high level of expectation for the players and the staff. And we certainly want them to play football that if we do come up against a tier 3 team, we should be able to hold our own. Even though we're in tier 4, we've got players that have played in tier 3. We've got players that should still be playing in tier 3 or even tier 2. They're that good. So for us, we don't fear anybody. And I think that's what the players need to understand, that we are well known. Southampton women are well known within the league structure. And we found that when I came in, I was asking managers for friendlies, and managers were just jumping at the chance to play us because they know that the clubs run properly. They treat the referees and the officials correctly. We're not getting bans for swearing at referees or shouting at referees and things like that. We do things right off the field with approaching players. We make sure that we, on social media, we have good social media now. Hayley Newman's our media manager, and our social media this season, and the fans will see that our media is now going to kick on another 4 or 5 steps with Hayley in charge of that. And it's really interesting, and it's good for us because, we've got a whole media team. We can film the games, we can analyse the games. We've got a whole media team to push all the stuff on social media. So if there's players or fans that can't get to games, they can always stay updated on there. So I think that's important to mention that, on the field, we have got a great squad. The squad's ready. We've got a squad all ready to go now for the first game of the season if it was tomorrow. But I think off the field, I think that's the important stuff that we're putting in place as well, like the social media stuff, because let's be honest, not everyone can come to games, so like yourself, obviously. So you want to be able to follow us. And now with Twitter, you'll be able to follow Kick by Kick with Hayley doing it, and she's the best at it, and that's why we got her in.
Yeah, I have benefited from the past of oftentimes I'm finishing recording an episode of this show as you guys are kicking off. And so then as I'm editing and getting things ready, it's have the Twitter feed up and watch what's going on, and look for maybe if there's a player that's injured, their reaction to it on Twitter or whatever it is. So I definitely appreciate it. And I think it's important to kind of emphasize again, you mentioned that you run the club or everybody, the club is run as a tier 2 side. And you mentioned earlier you have several levels of play, from the reserves down to the U16s and everything else. You have a physio that's on hand for training sessions and for matches. You have a full-time, or not full-time, but you have media coverage and a media team that's dedicated to the club. And there's a lot that I think the club can offer fans, myself included, and fans that are local, and also for some of the players that are coming in looking for a club to play for. The club offers a lot of opportunity. And so, I mean,
these are all volunteers, don't you? That's the thing. They're all volunteers. No one gets paid. No players get paid. No staff get paid. I'm first team manager. I don't get paid. I don't get any money. And I don't want money. If I had any money, I'd put it straight back into the club, because we want to get out of this league, and we want to make sure that, this is why when we were talking earlier about the sponsorships, is we don't want the players to have to play. We don't want any staff to have to pay for any of their kit, because they're given 30 hours a week, for training. And it's not just the training, is it? It's you're getting the phone calls from players in between the training sessions, or after a game on Sunday, you're getting players ring you moaning that they're not in the team, they're not in the squad, or they've been injured, so you have to check up on them. And all this stuff, that's the stuff I love doing, which is great, because I like the management side and Lee loves the coaching side. And I think that's another reason we work so well.
All right. I think you guys are set up to really give the league a go this year. And I know that just from some of the interactions I've had with players recently, that everybody's pretty excited about doing this. And you've mentioned that everybody's coming in and they're ready to take their chances. And
Yep.
I think it'll be really good. And I think that the fact that you have players complaining they're not in the squad is good, because that means everybody's working hard and trying to get into it. So I think that's important. So we have a couple of questions from people who are our listeners or people who follow on social media. So we'll, if you don't mind, we'll ask you a few of those right now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. I'm not always sure, especially because some of them come from people you may or may not know. So we'll keep the names away from it. But
yeah.
This one says, there's nothing that's too dicey in here. So it says, which team do you see as your biggest challenge next season? We kind of touched on that a little bit, but what do you think there?
Southampton FC women, 100%.
Yeah, just the level of investment that's going in there. We talk about we're trying to put as much in place as possible that the tier 2 sides have. They're able to do that just because of the level of funding they've got. They've got full-time paid staff there. They're trying to attract players down from the higher league. So they're going to be a real test for us. And there's some other good teams in the league, though. I mean, look at the league last year. Cheltenham was strong, Buckland was strong, Chesham were up there as well. So we won't be underestimating anyone. I mean, we're sitting here in our cars tonight, about to go and watch a team in our league who finished, I think, 8th or 9th in the league last year.
Yeah.
And we want to watch them, so we're doing our homework. We think Southampton will probably be the strongest side of the league, but we do our homework on everyone. We make sure there's nothing left to chance.
And like I said earlier, like this league for me reflects like the men's championship. You can lose to a team at the bottom on a rainy day in December if you are not on it and you are not concentrating, and you let in a sloppy goal from a corner and you go 1-0 down. It is such a struggle. You've just got to make sure the concentration levels are high. And this is the thing, anyone in this league can beat anyone. That's the worry of this league. If you're not on it every single week after week after week, you slip up once, then the pressure is on. And then when the pressure's on, that's when you see players starting to crack, players starting to wobble, managers starting to wobble, and that's what we don't want. So that's why we need to make sure that we're ready every single week.
All right. Another one here. We have a question on equal pay that I think we kind of touched on already, so we'll leave that one alone. But this one comes in and it says, who do the players like more out of the two of you?
Wow. They hate me. I'm the manager. The managers always hate it because I'm the one that drops them. So when we pick a team, I'd always make sure I never pick a team without Lee having an input. And last year at Chichester, we had Matt Wright as well, who was the coach, and all three of us would always pick the team. But in the players' eyes, it's always the manager that drops them. It's one of the hardest things as a manager is to sit there before a game and tell a player the reason they're not playing. We got to the cup final, the Sussex Cup final last year, and sitting there telling players that expected to play that they weren't playing in that cup final because of tactical reasons. It's so difficult. But again, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to develop myself. I'm here to develop the team. I'm here to get this team out of this league. And so, I hope that, people are going to like me, and they do like me, but they will fall out with me at some point because I'm the one that has to drop them. I'm the one that has to tell them to stop messing around and training. Whereas Lee can be Mr. Nice Guy all the time, can't you, Lee?
That's it. I've got the easy life. I get to play the good cop, and but I think we like working with the players, and they like working with us. That's been evident, I think, from the session so far. And like Aaron said earlier on, we've got sort of different personalities, different skill sets. So we can both benefit the players in different ways. We can offer them something different each. It's not sort of like we're a couple of clones. And we challenge each other as well, which is good.
So, you say clowns or clones?
Clones.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important, and especially given that, like you said, everybody's volunteering. So it maybe changes the dynamic a little bit, but the fact that everybody is showing up and giving, is dedicated to what you guys are trying to do, and the whole, it seems like the whole club is moving in the right direction, which I think is extremely important and says a lot about the club and the players and you two as well. So I'm really happy that that's the case. Just I guess one or two more things, but I guess for you, just at this level, what's the hardest thing about coaching at this particular level in the women's game?
I'd say probably the contact time with the players. Aaron was talking about how we've tried to bump it up to 4 hours a week, which, still is nowhere near enough to do what we really want to do. I've been lucky at some of the clubs I've been at before. We've been able to train 3 times a week. But even then, it's a couple of hours in the evening. Players have got jobs or they're at uni, things like that. So football's not able to be their main focus. It's a big focus in their lives and they give up a lot of time to it, but they still have to work. They still have to study. So we have to take that into account as well. But I mean, if we could have more training time, that would be unreal, and to work in the game full time. But we don't have that luxury at the moment. So I think that's one of the real big challenges. And obviously that links in with finance, which we touched on earlier.
All right. Aaron, is similar for you, or anything different there?
Yeah, finances. We're finding that there's teams in the tier above us that are paying players, and we want to attract the best players we can. And to do that, you have to offer them something other than finances, which is why we have, like I said before, physio, nutritionists, psychologists, etc. Because we can offer them the best coaching and the best sort of sports science side that we can possibly offer, and that's a draw to bring them in. But what we find is you bring them in, you start doing well, and we had this at Chichester last year. We got to Christmas, I think we'd played 12, won 11, which was a surprise to everybody, not us, but it was a surprise to everyone else outside the club. And players then started to be headhunted by other clubs because obviously you're doing well, and that's obviously good for us because we're developing the players, but it's not great when you're getting all your best players are getting approached at Christmas time when you think you want to hit the second half of the season. So I think it's difficult to try and keep hold of some players. And I've said to all the players, if a team above us come in for any of our players and they want to go and train, then we let them go and train because we think, well, we all want to be the highest possible club that we can be at, in the highest possible level. And we'd never hold anyone back. And if it means that we've developed someone for 6 months of the season and then they go and play in tier 2 and they're getting paid to play and that's their job, then that's fantastic for us and it's fantastic for them.
Yeah, as much as it makes your job a little bit harder in the moment, it is ultimately what you're working towards, and I think that's also important. So over the course of my time doing this, I've had the pleasure of speaking to Kirsty, Emma, Izzy, and just a number of other players, and Becky as well. So I know there will be familiar faces on the pitch for you, and I know that new players are showing up to the club, and they will be announced and given their proper time to be told, and for us all to know, I guess, who's going to be on the field. So people can look out for that. And you mentioned Haley earlier, doing this the club media. She'll be kind of in charge of that, and the media releases will be coming. So I will look forward to that. And I think all of us will be ready to see how you guys kind of get on when the season fully kicks off. But I just want to say to both of you that I appreciate your time. I know you are out planning to do some scouting tonight, but just thank you for your time, because this is, once again, you're volunteering an extra hour to talk to a dude in California who supports the team. So I appreciate that. And I would love to. It's my pleasure, first of all, to be able to follow the team, and it's an honor to be able to take a small part in hoping to spread what you guys have going on at the club to the listeners of the show.
Thank you. We appreciate it, and we hope that we can do you and all the other fans credit this year. And perform well, not only perform well, but also play nice football, because that's, at the end of the day, people come and watch football, don't they? They all want to see us lumping the ball from end to end. So hopefully it'll be attractive football and it'll be winning games and getting us out of this league.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd say for anyone that's curious, about it or wants to see what we're doing, come down to the Spurs game at Eastleigh FC on the 28th of July, because it's I think it'd be a really good showcase for the players and for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say that.
Just say one more thing. Sorry, can I just say one more thing about the Spurs game? That we're running a competition because we want mascots to walk out with the captains. So what we're going to ask is that if anyone can go on our Twitter, on Southampton Women's Twitter, and like the tweet that mentions the mascots and put on there who you think would be a really good mascot to walk out with the captains of our captain, Tash Angel, and also the captain of Spurs at the Silver Lake Stadium, in front of a couple of hundred people. It's a good competition to win, and we really want to push that because we'd like I said earlier, we want to try and inspire young footballers to try and push on and be the next person that's running around on the field, for Southampton or any club really, and then, look at trying to get there to represent your country and then play in the World Cup. And, like we said earlier, there is going to be players that play for Spurs that have been at the World Cup. So please go on our Twitter page and like the tweet, put someone's name that you think is going to be a good mascot, and then enter the competition.
All right. Well, Lee or Aaron, before we go, is there anything that I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and I made several mistakes, but I'll promise to make us sound maybe smarter than we really are. That's more for me than directed at you two, just so we're clear. But anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up, and I let you guys get on with your night?
Not really. Just thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I hope to do it again. Let's do it again.
I would love that. That does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Aaron Smith and Lee Hurrell. You can find them on Twitter at West Spice and at LH Football. That is LHFUTEBOL. Special thanks this week also goes out to Haley Newman and to Elliot James Hunt for helping set these interviews up. And as a result, hopefully we're going to be able to bring you more coverage of the women's team as the season progresses, because the club is doing amazing things, making big changes and hoping to be able to progress. And I am happy to be along on that journey with them. So if you have any media contact stuff, get in touch with Haley. She is the media person at the club now. If you're interested in sponsoring somebody at the club, go ahead and visit the website or get in touch with Amanda Burroughs, who is the club's secretary. You can visit their website, southamptonwfc.co.uk. That is the website you can go to. There are links in the show notes for all of it, social media, everything else. So you can follow them at SOTON Women's FC on Twitter and Instagram, or at facebook.com/Southampton Women's FC. If you want to get in touch with this show on social media, it's at SFCDELL_IVERY on Twitter and Instagram. We're also at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. There is no underscore in the Facebook address. If you have a friend that you think might like the show, please send them to southamptondelivery.com. There, they can sign up for the newsletter. They can get links to the podcast. They can listen to older episodes of the show. There's a special section for that, actually. If you like the Southampton Women's Football Club stuff, go over to the archive page and check out the Southampton Women's section. There are more episodes there for you to listen to. If you're interested in more things about Saints, you can get that from our partner page, the Southampton page. They are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There are links in the show notes, and they've also partnered with 90 Minute Football for the coming season. So you can expect articles and other things to be coming with that. The logo was designed by Matt Beling, so thanks to Matt for doing that. The show wouldn't even be in iTunes without him. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games. The initial credits that you just listened to, probably based on the time that it's taken me to record this, is Aim is True by Paddington Bear. That does it for this week. Please make sure to sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss it. It will be out on Friday. And until next time, remember that together, we march on.